Okay, so maybe we should try some karaoke now that I've seen. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of a warm-up before we start. And I'm going to ask you to start clapping, and you just follow as I raise my hand, okay? Just very politely. Then you raise. Start some screamings. Yeah? Okay, now I give it to Evan Yu.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So I'm super excited to be here, and with this awesome crowd, over 1,000 people in this ridiculous screen, it's just amazing. And I want to really thank the team, Luke and his team, for putting this together. I really appreciate all the effort, and I'm really glad to see we also get a lot of core team members here as well. So thank you all, and so let's get into it. So today, this is going to be a general talk about the state of Vue and some updates since last time I think I did such a talk was at least half a year ago. So quite a few things happened in between that time, and I just want to catch up with some of the things we've done during that period of time, and also take a look back at what happened in 2017. Because I didn't write a 2017 post this year. I did one last year, but... So, Vue was the most starred project on GitHub in the entire 2017, with over 40,000 stars gained in the year. And the growth was phenomenal. We grew from 7.6 thousand to 37,000 from 2016 to 2017, and then we gained even more stars. Got like close to 46,000, counting from start of 2017 to today. So over 122%. NPM downloads, even better. In 2017, so the entire 2017, we got, so this is from beginning of the first NPM published to the start of 2017, we got only 0.21 million downloads, and then by the beginning of 2017, we got 1.78 million, and now we're at 9.72 million, and over 1 million downloads per month. And DevTools weekly active users, I like this metric a lot because I think this is a very one of the most accurate metrics to tell actually how many people are using Vue.js around the world. And we have now over 355,000 users around the world. And in 2000, counting to today, this morning. So I took those stats this morning. So over 300% growth since last year. And financially, the Patreon and Open Collective campaigns are going really strong. So big shout out to all the sponsors that are sponsoring Vue.js on both on Patreon and Open Collective. And one of the things, so now that we've got our Open Collective with a very decent budget as well, so we're planning to open this up with a public process. So contributors from the community can make proposals on major features. If they want to spend a big chunk of time working on a big feature, they can make a proposal and then expense the pay from Open Collective. And we want to, all the funds in Open Collective will be dedicated to team and community work. So, new releases since 2017. The latest minor release is the 2.5 level E. This was made in October, and it came with improved TypeScript integration. You don't even need to use classes, and you'll still get great TypeScript inference. And if you're using VS Code with Vader, you can even get type inference without using TypeScript at all. Improved error handling. We now have the error captured hook combined with an abstract component. You can create error boundary components that can capture the error from a subtree of your application, which opens up a lot of interesting possibilities for error handling. And we also now support functional components in single-file components. Now, Core was only a small part of the ecosystem. Last year, one thing I wanted to mention is Vue is growing has already grown beyond a single-person project. Although I work mostly on Vue.js Core, there are a lot of other important projects in the ecosystem that are maintained by core team members. For example, ESLint plugin Vue. It's a pretty big effort because it involved writing an entire custom parser from the ground up called Vue ESLint parser that replaces ESLint's default parser, and it is able to link single-file Vue components and even catch syntax errors in your templates at compile time. So this is a big effort, and major shout out to Mikhail and Toru for working on this. They've been working really hard on ESLint plugin Vue, and I think it's something that greatly boosts the confidence when you're working on Vue during the development phase. And then we also have the official Vue test utils, which was born out of Avarol, which is a testing library by Ed Yeberg, who I think is probably also here. So big shout out to Ed. And test utils is currently in 1.0 beta, and you can already test it out. We have comprehensive tutorials, and there are even more painless ways to use it, which I will talk about later. And then, a short while ago, we also released another 4.0 major release for the Vue DevTools. Great improvements coming into Vue DevTools with a lot of new features, including editable state inspector. You can directly edit your state in the DevTools, and things will reflect back into your app. And all these great features, thanks to Guillaume, and he's also here, so big shout out to Guillaume for working on this. And we also, a short while ago, released an official news source at news.vujs.org. So this is the official newsletter that you can sign up to, and we have a curated list of latest things going on in the Vue ecosystem. Plus, Greg and Adam from Vue Mastery also produces a podcast episode for each newsletter, so that if you prefer to listen to something instead of reading it, like while you're driving, this is another great option. And outside of the core team, I'm even more excited about the whole ecosystem because just in the past few weeks, some great things are happening across the ecosystem, and I think it's a sign that the ecosystem is maturing. Nuxt reached 1.0 a short while ago in January. So I want to say a big congratulations to the Shopland brothers for making this work. Nuxt is fantastic abstraction on top of Vue that provides a very streamlined experience for making building server-side rendering apps, and they'll talk about it in details later today. Just 3 days ago, Vuetify, probably one of the best component UI libraries around in the Vue ecosystem, also just reached 1.0. So congrats to John for making this milestone, and he also has a pretty successful Patreon campaign going on, so I would encourage anyone who's found Vuetify helpful in your work to donate to his Patreon campaign. NativeScript Vue also reached 1.0 3 days ago. I don't know if you know it, but Jen Looper is going to tell you more about it later in her talk. And we also are seeing a lot of better integrations with external tools. VS Code, you probably have used VS Code with Vader, and you know it's a fantastic extension, and the author Vader now works on the VS Code team to improve Vue support, and they recently shipped a feature that allows you to directly debug Vue applications inside VS Code. And Code Sandbox provides an online service that allows you to create, edit Vue applications using single-file components directly in your browser. You don't even need to use a CLI to scaffold anything. This is also great for prototyping and debugging, making bug reports. Prettier, the code formatter, added support for Vue single-file components in 1.1, so it automatically formats the code inside your script blocks. And even, I believe it also formats the style section in your single-file components as well. Ionic 4 has been built from the ground up using web components, and now it works with Vue as well. So there have been some tutorials floating around as well. So a lot of external tools are also getting better Vue support. Okay, so now this thing that I want to talk about, which is something I've been working on for the past 2 months pretty intensively, and it's the next generation of the Vue CLI. So in the past, in the prior generation of Vue CLI, the 2.x versions, had some problems. The goal of the Vue CLI was to provide a way for developers to get up and running with Vue applications as fast as possible. Unfortunately, the complexity in the current front-end tooling ecosystem requires a lot of boilerplate and hand wiring if you want to set up everything from scratch, which is why we provided the CLI in the first place. However, as we maintain the original template, we start to realize there are some problems that the previous approach did not address. For example, 2.x templates are not upgradable. Once you scaffold a project, you're completely on your own. Consider it's similar to using Create React App and you're already ejected from the get-go, right? So they are not upgradable, especially if you have edited the configurations yourself. Naked configuration files inside the project are also intimidating. So if you've cracked open the build directory in a 2.x Vue CLI project, you probably know what I mean. The Webpack configuration files are quite long and takes a bit of Webpack expertise to understand and be able to modify anything. Template maintenance also becomes more and more difficult. So Linus has been working on maintaining the Webpack template for a while, and we start to realize because of all the features, all the possible permutations, combinations of different features, having them all handled at the template layer inside a CLI template was becoming increasingly difficult. You will have a lot of statements that's cramming together, just trying to get the dependencies right. And most importantly, in a single file, you will see concerns from several different aspects of the template. For example, in the package.json file, you will see a lot of in the template, you will see a lot of conditional blocks from the unit testing aspect of it, from the end-to-end testing part of it, and from other features. Every feature will need to inject something into package.json, and the file just becomes bloated and really hard to maintain. And finally, fork templates need to constantly sync with upstream. So last year, the Chrome team they forked the original official Webpack template, and they worked on a PWA template. So some of you might have used that template. And that template worked really well when it was first forked, but as the upstream Webpack template started to evolve and we're making more changes, we required manual effort to sync all those changes downstream to the PWA template. And that created discrepancy between the two versions. And if the maintainer of the PWA template didn't pull the changes downstream in time, there are differences in the build setups between the two templates. So we want to address these problems. So we looked at a lot of existing solutions in the ecosystem. Obviously, there's Create React App, but the approach, in my opinion, is a bit extreme because it's either use it just like it is, or you eject if you want to tweak the Webpack config. So I want to create a tooling system that allows you to configure the internal Webpack configuration if you want to, but I don't necessarily want to force users to eject, because once you eject, you're on your own. You can no longer update when there are upstream updates. And there is another great inspiration. Some of you might have used Poi, which is a great tool in the Vue ecosystem by Egoist. And Poi is great in the sense that it has this core Webpack configuration that's abstracted away using Webpack chain. And different pieces of functionality can be added to your base app in the form of plugins or presets. So each preset will inject additional Webpack Webpack configurations before it finally gets resolved into the raw Webpack configuration. The issue with Poi is that it doesn't come with scaffolding. And scaffolding is still an important part of the CLI. So Poi is meant to be this really fast get-going tool. You install it, and you can just create a single file and can start using it. But it doesn't help you with structuring things. It doesn't help you say, when I want unit testing, end-to-end testing, TypeScript, everything together, I want to have a project that's ready to go with all the necessary files generated for me. So this is how the new Vue CLI is born. It's very heavily inspired by Poi, and it uses a plugin-based architecture. It's zero config by default. So if you use it and you're happy with the default config, in most cases, you don't need to do anything. But everything is still configurable without the need to eject. And this is how it looks like. So I'm going to take a risk and just do some live demonstration. All right, so this is what happens when you install the new Vue CLI and use the Vue command. So you can see there is the commands include create, invoke, inspect, serve, and build. So init is really just an alias to the old Vue init. But the new Vue create looks like this. So let's Vue create, low. And as you can see, I have some presets already. So this is a save preset from my prior experiments. But just to show how things work, when you run it for the first time, you will see the default and manually select features. And in most cases, you want to customize things by going with manually select. And it comes with a lot of built-in features. So first-class TypeScript support. Let's just pick everything. Progressive web app support, router, Vuex, CSS preprocessors, Lingner unit testing, end-to-end testing. Let's take everything. So class-style component syntax allows you to write components using a class-based syntax. Well, just for the sake of demonstration, why not? We can also use Babel alongside TypeScript. So this allows TypeScript to only do the transpilation from TypeScript to ES 2015. And the rest of the build pipeline will be delegated to Babel because we can use Babel preset env to intelligently determine what polyfills to include in your app. Our Babel configuration reads the browser list target in your package.json, which is also used by auto-prefixers. So once you set the range of browsers you want to support, Babel and PostCSS will intelligently determine the auto-prefixing and polyfill needs in your app. Okay. You can pick a CSS preprocessor, and comes with linter setups, so you can use ESLint with Airbnb standard, prettier even. So let's use that. We also have lint on save, lint and fix on commit, unit testing with Jest, and end-to-end testing with Cypress, which is it's Chrome only, but with the really great interactive mode, and Nightwatch, which is Slalom-based, which allows you to run tests in more real browsers. Let's go with Cypress for now, and you can put your configuration in dedicated files or in package.json, depending on your personal taste. And you can choose to save this preset for future projects. So once you are happy with the configuration, save it, and next time you create your new project, you don't need to fill out all of these again. You just use the preset. So I'll skip this save for now. Okay, so this warning is because our parser is, our TypeScript is using 2.7, and the parser supports, it actually works pretty well with 2.7. It's just it decides to throw a warning there. So let's go into the project and take a look. Okay, let's, I'm gonna make the font size really big. Oops. Okay. And so, well, this is pretty small, right? But you can see it scaffolded all the files. And most important thing is in the package.json. So you can see the scripts here. So all the plugins have injected the scripts for them. Interestingly, all the features that you just saw that we picked just now are implemented in the form of plugins. And each of them, for example, the unit test plugin injects this command into package.json. The end-to-end plugin injects this command into package.json. And the unit test plugin also injects the Vue CI service test command into the service. So the service is a runtime package that is locally installed into your project. So once the project has been created, all the dependencies that it needs is included in its package.json. So once created, this project can just be committed into Git, sent to another developer, and they can just npm install with all the dependencies, and they can get up and running even without Vue CLI. And so let's run the server. I hope it works. Oops. All right. So the new app. And it comes with all these links to, it automatically infers the links to the documentation based on the plugins you've picked. OK. So another thing I want to show is, although it's great that you can scaffold a VCI project with all the dependencies built in, sometimes you just don't want to wait for the npm install. So here's a cool thing you can do. I'll just create something. Template, hello, Vue.js Amsterdam. Okay, so we have the app view. I don't know if you can see it, but now I say view serve app.view. Whoops. Haha, okay. Let's see. Right, because I didn't wrap it in a root node. Okay, so with this file, so you can start rapidly prototyping Vue.js applications with just literally a single Vue file from the command line. Once you install a global package called Vue CI Service Global, and this you can also do Vue build app.vue, which will produce a bundle, and you can deploy this. You can actually build, prototype, and deploy apps just without any npm dependencies. And there is also Vue build target web component. Whoops. Vue build web component, and I need to give it a name with a dash. So my app. So this still creates a JavaScript file, but this JavaScript file contains a real web custom element. Once you include this file into your page, it will register a custom element called my_app, and then you can just use this my_app element just like a normal DOM element. You don't even need to. So you need to include a Vue runtime on the page, but when you actually using the element itself, it doesn't matter if it's used in a Vue app or not. You can use it in any app. You can use it in React and Angular or just vanilla JavaScript. OK, so let's also go to the hello app, and we can do something like yarn build target wc async, and give it a grep pattern. So this command will find all the Vue files in your project and build it into a code-split bundle of web components. So you will have, so let's build, oops, OK, that one failed. So let's see what is going on. I'll skip this one because but you get the idea. We'll have a bundle of multiple JavaScript files. And the cool thing is you will get an entry chunk. The entry chunk will, in most cases, be only 7 KB minified and 3 KB gzipped. And you include that one file, it registers all the Vue components that you've just built into real custom elements. And then you can just directly use those custom elements. And when an custom element instance is actually encountered on the page, it will then fetch the implementation of the internal Vue component on demand. So you get this really load-on-demand, lazy-loaded custom element, but you still get the exact same development experience of the familiar Vue single-file components and hot reload during development, and all the tool chains that comes with Vue CLI. You can enjoy those benefits during development, but when you want to deploy it, you can still deploy it as async web components. So the CLI also comes with a lot of flexibility. So the internal Webpack configuration is abstract with Webpack chain and can be modified in Vue.config.js. So if you're curious about how this works, you can read the documentation. It's already up on GitHub, and it's quite straightforward to modify small pieces of Webpack configurations. And Babel, PostCSS, and ESLint can all be configured with their respective configuration files. Plus, we also want to open up the extensibility of the CLI, because the cool thing about the previous generation of the CLI was that the community could create custom templates. And we want to still enable that to a certain extent, too, in the new API. Although the next generation of the CLI is more zero-config, but since there is no more template to pick, there's just one default template. But it's still possible to inject a lot of custom behavior into the CLI by writing custom plugins. So plugins are able to modify the internal Webpack configuration. They can inject file generators. They can have their own custom prompts when you do Vue invoke. And they can also ingest custom commands. In fact, most of these built-in features like TypeScript, end-to-end testing, unit testing, they're all implemented using the same standard plugin API. So if you want to, you can write your own plugin API, your own plugin that implements special integration into the VCLI for something special that you want. So I'll be releasing it entering beta. So before this, it was still in alpha stage, but I think it's pretty stable now. So Vue CLI 3.0 will be in beta today. Thank you. And after that, a few notes on what's coming next. Webpack 4 just came out of the door. It's in beta now, and we've been in close collaboration with the Webpack team. They're keeping us up to date on upgrading some important plugins in the Webpack ecosystem, making sure they're compatible with Webpack 4. And we're going to upgrade to Webpack 4 as soon as we can, and because it comes with some really great performance boosts. 2.6, which is the next minor that we'll be working on, is going to ship with an ES modules browser build. So you can use script type module to import vue.esm.js directly in the browser without a build step. ES modules directly in the browser. It's going to also come with better asynchronous error handling. So in 2.5, we improved error handling, but one thing that we overlooked was asynchronous errors, and we want to improve that. And then you'll see better warning output as well. So the Vue runtime itself reports warnings when you have some syntax errors in the template, but by default, it doesn't come with line numbers before. But there is a great pull request open right now, which we will merge soon, that will give you line numbers and even code frames when you have a syntax error in your template. And then we'll also have V4 iterator support, so we're going to have support for map and set in Vue 4 as well. And then there's also going to be 2.6 next. So this next branch is going to be a branch that will drop older browser support. It will only support latest browsers that support latest ES features. So, for example, proxies. So ES 2015 proxies is very cool, and we're going to use proxies to replace the current reactivity system and upgrade the code base to leverage the latest ES features. But the API will remain the same. There will be maybe 1% of small incompatibleness, but 99% of the API remains the same, and in majority of the cases, as long as you're willing to drop support for some of the older browsers, you should be able to just migrate over without doing anything. Both versions will be maintained in parallel, so until the older browser actually phases out, and will then drop support for the legacy branch. And we're also planning to simplify the API of UX. Considering all the new ES features, especially async await. The reason that we have mutations actions separated in Vuex right now is because it allows us to better handle asynchronicity. But with async await, we are exploring some new possibilities, and some of the proposals are pretty exciting, and we will likely eliminate the separation of actions and mutations altogether, so you can just write actions. And that's all I have for today, so thank you.